The job was simple. Spend the summer alone in a glass box on a mountain and watch for smoke. That's what the brochure said. 6 months of paid solitude. For most people, it would be a prison. For me, it was an escape. My world had shrunk to the size of a hospital room, then to the suffocating space inside my own head. I needed more space, more silence. So I applied, and somehow they gave me the job. They gave me Fire Tower 7, a steel skeleton with a 10 by 10 foot room on top, perched on the spine of the world. The first few weeks were exactly what I needed. A quiet balm for a raw soul. My days fell into a simple monastic rhythm. Wake with the sun, scan the horizon, a 360-degree ocean of green with my binoculars, log the weather, read, scan again, sleep. The silence was the best part. A silence so profound it had its own sound, a low hum that was just the vibration of the earth itself. The only voice I heard was Dave's, the head ranger, crackling through the radio for our twice-daily check-in. It was perfect. It was on a Tuesday, in my 4th week, that I saw it for the first time. It was a smudge of charcoal against the crisp blue of the late afternoon sky. To the northeast, I did what I was trained to do. I sighted it through the Osborne firefinder, the brass ring that sat in the center of my glass room. I triangulated the position, marked it on my map, and keyed the radio. Tower 7 to base. Dave's familiar, gravelly voice came back. Go for base. What you got, kid? Got a visual on a smoke plume. Quadrant Sierra 9. Looks small, but it's dark. There was a pause. I could hear him tapping on a keyboard. Sierra 9. That's deep in the basin. No storms through there. No registered campers. You sure? Pretty sure, Dave. It's faint, but it's there. All right. I'll send the spotter plane for a flyby. Keep an eye on it. I kept watching, but over the next hour, the smoke didn't grow or spread. It just faded. By the time Dave radioed back, it was gone. The plane saw nothing. Not a scorch mark, not a wisp. Nothing. Wind plays tricks up there, kid, Dave said, his voice reassuring. Heat haze, dust devils. You'll get used to it. I logged it as a false alarm. But the next day, it was back. In the exact same spot. And this time, there was a cold knot in my stomach. It was closer. Over the next week, the smoke became my silent companion. It never billowed like a real fire. It didn't drift on the wind. It would simply appear, a dark, oily stain in the sky. Each time I reported it, the answer was the same. Nothing there. Dave started to sound more patient than concerned, like he was humoring me. I started to think maybe I was losing my mind, that the grief and the isolation were finally making me crack, until the day it changed shape. It wasn't the lazy, chaotic dance of a real fire. I was watching it through the binoculars when it coalesced. It formed a perfect spiraling coil like a strand of DNA. It held the shape for a full minute before slowly unraveling. The next day, it formed a series of concentric rings, like a target painted on the sky. A week after that, it did something that made my blood run cold. It mimicked the tower, a tall, thin stalk with a tiny box on top, drawn in black smoke against the pristine blue. It was mocking me. That's when the whispers started. At night, when I'd try to listen to the baseball game on the shortwave radio, I'd hear things in the static, faint hisses, sounds like dry leaves skittering over pavement, or the hiss of water on hot coals. I told myself it was interference, atmospheric disturbance, but I knew it wasn't. The sounds were shaping themselves, trying to form words I couldn't quite understand. A thunderstorm rolled in 2 nights later, trapping me completely. The sky was black, the wind howled, and my little glass box felt like the most fragile thing on earth. Unable to sleep, I decided to distract myself by cleaning out the cabin's old supply locker. Behind a stack of moth-eaten blankets, I found it, A thick leather-bound logbook from a previous lookout. His name was Alistair Finch. His entries started out just like mine, weather reports, wildlife sightings, but as I flipped toward the end, his neat cursive became a frantic, jagged scrawl. July 12. The smoke has no heat. July 15. It doesn't move with the wind. It moves with purpose. July 19. It showed me a shape today. A spiral. I was cleaning, and the same one is carved into the floorboards beneath my cot. My heart hammered in my chest. I scrambled to my cot and pulled back the thin mattress. There, etched deep into the old wood, was a perfect spiral. I turned back to the logbook, my hands shaking. July 22s. I understand now. It doesn't burn the forest, it replaces it. It hollows things out from the inside. It's an invitation. And then, the final entry. July 24. The silence isn't empty. It's full. It's offering me a place inside it. A place to be forgotten. I think I'll accept. The storm passed just before dawn. The air was clean and cold. I stood in the center of the room, the open logbook on the table, the spiral on the floor seeming to stare up at me. I raised my binoculars to the window, to the spot on the horizon. The smoke, it wasn't on the horizon anymore. It was here. It had completely surrounded the base of my tower, and it wasn't smoke anymore. It was a moving void, a silent, churning mass of antimatter black that absorbed the morning light. It was a hole in the world. I could see the trees behind it, but where the smoke was, there was just nothing. A perfect, silent emptiness. As I watched, paralyzed, a tendril of that nothingness detached from the mass and touched one of the steel legs of my tower. It made no sound, not a single scrape of metal on metal. It simply began to flow upwards, like ink bleeding through paper. It wasn't climbing, it was erasing. I'm still here. The sun is fully up now. The black void still surrounds me, patiently. The tendril is halfway up the tower. I have two choices: the trapdoor that leads to the ladder, and a 50-mile run through a forest that has been hollowed out, or the glass box, where I can simply wait. The smoke continues to climb, and I am still watching. Grief has a strange texture. It's heavy, but also hollow. After my grandfather passed, I was tasked with the archaeology of his life, sifting through the layers of memories packed away in his quiet suburban home. Most of it was what you'd expect: war medals, blurry photographs, a lifetime of holiday cards. Then in the suffocating heat of the attic, I found a shoebox. Unlike the others, it wasn't labeled Christmas or taxes. It just had one word, written in my grandfather's shaky cursive: Somnus. Inside were a dozen cassette tapes, each neatly labeled with a phase. Phase 1, induction. Phase 2, disassociation. At the bottom was a small, cheaply printed brochure for the Somnus Institute. It promised a revolutionary, non-medicinal cure for insomnia and anxiety through guided audio sessions. It was dated 1978. Feeling a strange connection to this piece of his past, I dug out my old Walkman, blew the dust off, and settled in to listen to what I assumed would be boring sleep therapy. The voice that emerged was incredible. A deep, impossibly smooth baritone, like honey mixed with warm sand. Welcome to the Somnus method. Let's begin your journey to a more peaceful mind. Find a comfortable position. Close your eyes. We are going to start by letting go of the day, letting go of the noise. It was creepy, sure, but in a harmless, retro way. I listened to the whole first tape, a 30-minute session of relaxation exercises. I almost dozed off. I put the box aside and didn't think about it again for a few days. But the silence in my grandfather's house was loud. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to listen to the next tape. Phase 2, disassociation. The same soothing voice returned, but the instructions had changed. Now that you are relaxed, the voice purred, I want you to picture a happy memory, your 7th birthday perhaps. See the cake, the candles, feel the joy. Now understand that this memory is not yours. It is a fabrication, a pleasant story, but a story nonetheless. Let it dissolve. It has no power over you. It does not belong to you. I sat up, my blood running cold. What kind of therapy was this? Morbidly, I kept listening. Picture the face of your first love, the warmth of their hand in yours, a beautiful feeling, but it is an echo, a pre-written script you are simply acting out. Let the face fade. Let the feeling go. It is not a part of your foundation. It is a loose thread. Pull it. The tape ended. I took off the headphones, my heart pounding. It was just a stupid tape. But when I tried to picture my own 7th birthday party, the image was blurry, faded, like a photograph left out in the sun for too long. Over the next week, a quiet horror began to unfold. I'd be at the grocery store and forget what I came for. I'd call a friend and momentarily blank on their name. I felt like my own mind was a house where someone was slowly, methodically stealing the furniture while I slept. I became paranoid. I knew I should destroy the tapes, but I had to understand why. My hand trembled as I put in the next tape. Phase 3, implantation. The voice was different this time. It wasn't guiding anymore. It was commanding. You have made room, it said. You have swept the floors of your mind. It is time to furnish the space. We will now restore what was yours to begin with. Picture your brother, Daniel. Remember how you used to skip stones by the creek. Remember the scar he got on his chin when he fell from the oak tree. I ripped the headphones off. I don't have a brother. My name isn't Daniel. It was a mistake, a tape meant for someone else. That had to be it. I was about to throw the whole box in the trash when I saw it. Tucked into the side of the box was a faded photograph I hadn't noticed before. It was my grandfather, younger, standing with a group of other men. They all had the same placid, empty smiles. And next to my grandfather was a boy, maybe 10 years old, with a small white scar on his chin. I felt a wave of vertigo so intense, I had to grab the table. I stared at the boy's face. I didn't know him, but a part of my brain, a deep, quiet part I didn't know existed, screamed that I did. That's when I saw it, written on the back of the photo in my grandfather's hand, me and my new son, Daniel. He is remembering well. This wasn't therapy. It was a replacement, an overwrite. My grandfather, he wasn't my grandfather. He was just the body that was left after the Somnus Institute finished its work. I frantically searched the box. All the tapes were there, except for the final one, Phase 12, integration. But there was one last cassette. It was blank, no label, no number, just a simple, black cassette tape. The final session, the one that completes the process. I'm holding it in my hand right now. It feels heavy. I am left with a choice that is eating me alive. Do I listen to it and meet the person I was supposed to be? Or do I destroy it and live out the rest of my life as this half-erased stranger in a house full of someone else's memories? The silence in this house is waiting for my answer.